Welcome back to another episode of Picking Up the Pixels RPG Love. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me, as always, is Musim.
Hello.
Quick plug here for patreon.com/E1M1. The ones are numbers. Get all the cool behind-the-scenes early access. PUP doesn't always show up there for like the kind of uncensored outcast. Sometimes we do, but we haven't had anything super interesting to talk about over there other than like personal stuff. But if you want to listen over there, there's a uncensored weekly thing where we kind of talk about all the non-video game stuff. Moon and I do We Roguelike It, show we play allegedly play every roguelike in history, which is just a couple thousand games. And Critical Misses, where we're going through kind of all the media hits that Moon and I have missed. Get early access to all of that stuff over at patreon.com/E1M1. Musim, what have you been playing this past month?
So I've really only been playing two games.
Okay.
The first game, I was playing like an hour a night the first couple weeks till the second game came out. And the first game is Persona 5 Strikers.
Yes.
And the internet is correct. That game gets significantly better once you get past the first dungeon, like 4 to 5 hours in.
Man, I stopped at the wrong time because I finished that first dungeon, and you go and you like take off on your road trip, and you get to like the first rest area, and that's where I stopped. And I bet that's probably like 10 minutes away from it getting really good.
Yeah, like it feels. It's. I've been thinking about it, and I'm not entirely sure how to like verbalize it. Like you go from like the first area, like you're just retreading the Persona 5 areas.
Yeah.
And if you've already played Persona 5, you are seeing the same areas you saw for well over 100 hours of game time.
Let's go to the cafe. Here's the movie theater. Oop, here's the bathhouse. And it's just like, this is cool that all of it is here, but
yeah, your villain is not particularly fun.
Yeah.
But like she's also not like, I mean, no one's ever first boss of Persona 5 evil.
Right. That's that's a high watermark or low watermark maybe to kind of
And this like they try to do some story stuff with, oh, this bad guy's an idol and Anne's an idol, so therefore they relate. And I'm like, do they?
Yeah,
I feel like
it's the sort of thing where like the bad guy, the first one, you almost start to kind of feel badly for her, where you're like, yeah, maybe she's not actually living this kind of semi-charmed life that it appears to be, and then she just turns out to kind of be a jerk either way.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, great.
Yeah. So then you get to the second boss, and it's not like the second boss is a good person, but I'm gonna lightly spoil what he is.
Sure.
His theme is he is an author who rips off other people's storylines. And he's really famous, but all his writing is really, really bad. And it's all like,
okay,
it's all bad anime tropes.
Oh, okay, that's pretty good.
As you go through his dungeon, like you are engaging with those anime tropes, and it's
okay.
All the main cast being really exasperated with it, and it's really funny.
That's really good.
It feels like a weight is lifted off when you get to that road trip. And I think part of that too is as the player, you're realizing, oh, time really doesn't matter in this game. I can exit and re-enter the dungeon as I want. Like most of running around the town is just to buy like food and whatnot before I go back into the dungeon. And you're kind of figuring out your groove. Like there's a definite like money resource balance you got to do there between upgrading armor and weapons and things like that.
Right.
And they introduce side quests, which are fairly cut and dry. It's kind of just go to this area of this dungeon and fight this thing and you're done.
Okay.
And kind of with the teleports they give you around the dungeon, it's pretty easy to accomplish. But it's I really like. I was almost with you in that I was like, do I really want to play this game?
Right, like, do I want to keep going?
Like, it's more than a typical, I always forget what the Dynasty Warrior style. Muso.
Yeah.
It's more than like a typical Muso game.
Hmm.
So like, well, as I was going into it, kind of hoping for less than it was, just kind of something a little bit more brainless. Um, there's that, but it's also, I think, just really smartly done. Like, I like
Yeah.
how you go to use a skill and everything kind of stops, so you can kind of choose
Hmm.
it. I like how if you are actually stealthing around, you can oftentimes destroy the enemy in an opening move.
Yeah.
Um, the and I got to tell you, adding platforming in an action game to Persona really makes the Phantom Thieves feel like thieves in it
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, but I really like that game. Unfortunately, it controls like no other action game. Um, and I can't play it at the same time as other things. So I don't
Hmm.
know why they put dodge on R2. It
Oh man,
really bothers me.
yeah, the whole thing is just it's all over the place.
Yeah. So anyway, I love Persona Strikers. You can't play it without playing 5 or you're going to be lost in the story.
Yeah.
I will get back to it, but then a game that I've been pretty hyped about came out called Horizon Forbidden West. Um,
Yeah.
and I've been trying to weigh how I want to talk about this game, and I'm going to try to weigh more on the objective side because
Okay.
I've had too many uh, friends give me pushback on it. So I know that I am in love with this game, and
I
like
am too, yeah.
the first weekend it came out, like I woke up like at like 9 or 10 a.m. on a Sunday, and I was like, I don't have anything to do today. I'm just gonna play this, and I literally played that game until like 11 that night.
That's
With like
great.
maybe an hour or 2 hour break here and there.
Right.
So if you haven't played like a Horizon game, the- it really doesn't. It is a third person action game, but it does not like function like one because of the
Hmm.
nature of how you're hunting the animals. And it has a lot of DNA from other open world games. You'll see DNA from the Ubisoft open world stuff, which honestly gets a little bit too much flack. Um,
Yeah.
I think I've always enjoyed the tower mechanics, and I like Horizon's take on towers, even if the the tall necks kind of feel less significant in Forbidden West.
Well,
Um,
not only are there a lot less of them, I kind of like the problem I have with the tall necks and the so if anyone hasn't played them, you climb the top of a tall neck. It's essentially like a robot giraffe with like a dish on the top of its head. You crawl to the top of it, you hack it, and it kind of shows you the area. It's like the Borgia Towers of Assassin's Creed. Um, what I like that they did in Forbidden West is I like that you like needed to solve a puzzle or two to be able to get to the top of a tall neck or like to start scaling the tall neck. It's not just like, oh, weird, it comes next to this cliff. What are we going to do? It's like, all right, you got to move this thing. Like the very first one, you have to like move this ancient satellite dish around to be able to maneuver your way up to kind of the level of where it is. That's the only one I've done because I haven't even done the Death's Door quest yet, like the next big
mm,
storyline beat at the beginning of the game. But I like how that was changed instead of just like, yeah, just get to the top of it. It's like you gotta figure out some other stuff first. Like you gotta take care of
yeah.
some puzzles.
So I found 3 of them,
Okay.
and the third one I literally did an hour ago.
Oh, nice.
The second one I still don't know how to do. I get
Someone
there.
I read someone online saying that you get a skill pretty close to the end of the game that will let you solve whatever puzzle that is.
Okay.
I don't know
It
why they
is
put that as the second one, but you know.
well, and I appreciate like as you encounter these things in the game, Aloy usually tells you if you can do it or not. Um,
Yeah, I one of my larger problems with this game is I don't mind Aloy being chatty. I know they just put out a patch like yesterday or the day before that decreases some of her chattiness even further. Um, I really like when you run into, um, even really early on in the game, you run into these like big red like crystal flower things, And Aloy is like, I don't think I have the tool to deal with this. I should come back later. It's like, thank you. I didn't want to solve this puzzle for an hour and be like, have to Google anything.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, you'll do something where, like, I went into one of the, like, the outcast camps, and you turn this crank, and, like, half of this bridge falls over. And she's like, all right, I guess I gotta lower half of the other bridge. And I was like, okay, cool. So I go to turn around, and she's like, I should use my focus, that like Bluetooth thing. And I was like, I'm getting there. And then like you use it, and she's like, I should shoot those 2 weak points. It's like, man, I just like, you got to give me like a couple of seconds here. Thankfully, the rest of the game hasn't been like that, but there was just that one outcast camp where it's like, just give me a second, man. Like I can solve a puzzle. I'm all right. I'm a smart guy.
So the only thing I've noticed like that was like 2 or 3 days ago. It was I can't remember. It was some side quest where I had to save some. I think they were Tanox or something like that. Like they had lost their weapons and they were trapped on top of these things, and I had to kill. I don't remember. They were like snap maws or something like that were
Right.
around. Like the big. It was either the alligator or the hippopotamus things.
Oh, right.
And like they were a little higher level than me, so it was kind of a difficult fight that I kept dying on. But something that kept happening is they had these rock traps where you're supposed to shoot the supports when the machines are under them, so it dumps rocks. And I would do that. It would miss the machines, and then one of the NPCs would yell, "You have to shoot the structure so the rocks fall down." I'm like, I just did. There are none left.
Right, buddy, what do you think I'm doing down here, man? Like,
use your powers of observation. And it did that to me every single time I died on that one. But
man.
like these are, I feel like this is a little bit few and far between, like on that end though. Like,
yeah, it's only been like, for me, it's only been that one instance. Otherwise, the game it's kind of nice because it's largely leaving me alone to just kind of explore. And when I get close to something that might be something that is like, you know, one of those ruins where it's like a larger puzzle to get behind a door, Aloy will sort of be like, ooh, like, oh, an ancient ruin, I wonder what could be in there. And then she drops it. Like, if you don't go there, she's not going to be like, well, let's toss on some guilt. Like, she's just going to be like, that's cool. Like, you're doing something else. No big deal. I put it on your map.
I'll tell you, so I really like the ancient ruins, but I completely lose direction sense when I'm in them.
100%.
I am very appreciative whenever she says something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't even know where I'm going anymore in this stupid broken building.
Oh, you can push this train car. And I'm like, oh, I can? Oh, okay. That'll solve this puzzle. Great, thank you.
Yeah. Like it very much feels like the developers had someone play their game and observed where they got stuck and stuck in a dialogue to make up for that. Well, you know, much like gosh, well, and I was trying not to mention other games. Like it definitely takes some inspiration from Breath of the Wild, and I think that's one of the things I heard about the development of that game was they had a lot of the designers play through the game and look for things that could help, you know, push players around or point them or give clues. And it's both the first Horizon and Breath of the Wild came out within like a month of each other or something, but and this one definitely has a little bit of, like, I feel like this took like a lot of good ideas from like Breath of the Wild and maybe like a little bit of Witcher 3 and kind of left the other baggage behind. Like, you know, you now have the glider, but you don't have a stamina bar.
Oh, it's so nice just being able to like, and there's even an option in the game that I keep meaning to go turn on where if you jump off a cliff, it will just automatically put the glider out for you. Like, you don't need to hold a button or anything. It's like, this is great. Like, I can just jump. I'm done doing this puzzle all the way on top of a mountain. I'm just going to jump off and glide down to this town. And the game's like, yeah, man, cool. Go ahead and do it. Like, you don't want to fast travel, you want to see some cool sights on the way down? Let's do it.
Yeah, it's I feel like the open world in general is better than the first one. Like
I would agree. Yeah.
I don't know if it's like factually bigger or not, but it feels like you're you're not taking too long or too short to get somewhere.
Hmm.
Like Xenoblade suffers from that a lot, where you're just like, oh my gosh, am I ever going to get to this destination point? Why did you
I've been
make this
running
so
for like 20
large?
minutes.
And then like you have a Skyrim situation where it's every 10 feet you're adding something to the map, and this definitely has
Yeah.
like a little bit of that, but I feel like it hit a really nice happy medium with it. Um,
Well, and speaking of the open world stuff, I really like. So, like, one of my recommendations for anyone playing this game is like just kind of push through the opening area until you get the glider, and then at that point, it kind of like turns you loose a little bit. One of the things I like is like, all right, you need to go do this mission over here. I think Death's Door is the one they recommend you do first. And they're like, or you can explore. No big deal. That's cool. And it kind of like, someone kind of casually mentions, like, oh, built on the top of these old satellite dishes is this town. Check it out or don't. Whatever. No big deal. And like, they put it on your map and they're like, all right, go ahead. And like, you can go to that town if you want. You can totally skip it if you don't want to go. Like, it's kind of nice that they're just like, here's some cool things you can check out. You can do the main story mission. You can just kind of explore and see what trouble you get into, or you can go to this big town. Like, we genuinely don't really care, but here's some cool stuff.
yeah, it's pretty open.
Yeah.
Like at some point you're gonna have to go to the satellite town, but
Yeah.
um, but no, I agree. I especially like once you get out of Karja territory, like that's really when the game lets you loose and lets you kind
Yeah.
of just roam, do whatever you want, and could probably go and complete like 60% of the map, but at some point you're going to need to do certain side quests or story quests to get
Hmm.
um like it's a little Metroidvania, I guess, in that aspect, and that you got to get new
Yeah.
tools to open new things. Um
And so far,
what
the side quests all seem interesting. It's not like go to this area and farm 3 robot crocodile hearts. It's like, no, go to this area, talk to these people, help them with their thing. Like it kind of like you were talking about with The Witcher. Like, it feels like each side's quest has its own little story. It's not necessarily that it's not impactful. It's just that it's a shorter quest line that
yeah.
is well written and well voice acted and all that. It's just kind of branching off.
Well, I think you mentioned this on TVGP a few weeks ago. Like even the side quest NPCs have like similar levels of facial animations and body animations as
It's
Aloy.
wild.
Like, and it's almost none of them look alike. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I've finally started to notice some repeats here and there.
Oh, sure.
But like it is
That's
way
after
like they
like
put a
multiple
lot of effort.
dozens of hours, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I meant to look at my hour count and I have not. Like I've filled out about half the map and I have played. Like I'm not a 40-hour a week gamer anymore. I'm more like maybe like a 10 to 15 or something like
Hmm.
that. But I wouldn't be surprised if I was 20 or 30 hours in.
Yeah.
But I'm doing a lot of the side stuff, and there's a couple different levels of side stuff. You have the side quests that have about the same effort they put into the storyline is.
Right.
You have the hunting grounds, which the first time I encountered one, like I hated the hunter grounds in the first game. Like
Yeah,
they
they
always
were they were rough.
they wanted you to do something very difficult, and it always took dozens of tries. And in this game, the hunting grounds are really just looking to train you in the controls, train you in combos and ideas on moving throughout the world.
Yeah,
And
and
like,
like here's a cool stealth challenge that's like
yeah,
not super difficult.
there's like 3 challenges per hunting grounds. Like I've only
Right.
done 2 of the hunting grounds. The first one I did each challenge on the first time, and it took less than like 15 minutes, like
Oh,
total.
nice.
The second one I had to do a couple times because it was a stealth based one, but
Hmm.
that was still pretty quick. I wasn't that second one. I disliked how it would how you had to restart it, in that they'd be like, go down and you have to stealth attack and kill 3 enemies.
Hmm.
And I would mess up and they'd be on to me, but it wouldn't reset or tell me I'd lost. And I'd be like, well, I want to get the 3 minutes or less time so I don't have to do this again.
Right, exactly.
So
Like just
then
just like fail me out and reset me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Instead, I had to climb back up and talk to the groundskeeper and get them to reset it. And
Okay.
so it was a little annoying that way. But at the same time, we're talking 2 out of those 3 quests I had to do a couple times, and I bet I still got the thing, all 3 of them done within 20 minutes or so.
Mm.
The I can't remember if it was today or yesterday. Like I ran into a side quest where the game required me to side with this NPC or that NPC,
Mm.
and it was so well written. I was like, I could see both their points. I don't have like enough information to say whether this person's actually like being dishonest, but they
Right.
very much might be. And like this person is very clearly like paranoid and made the wrong decision. So I Googled it and got on the Reddit thread to see what other people did, because it amounts to kind of a whichever one you side with will be the NPC you're gonna interact with in that area for the rest of the game, kind of thing.
Okay.
But evidently, like it didn't matter which one you side with, but the Reddit thread was like paragraphs and paragraphs of people making completely valid arguments for both sides of the NPCs, and
Right.
it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's refreshing to see.
Yeah. Um, so then, like some of the other side quests they have, I'm trying to touch on the stuff they have in the first game. I'm blanking out on it though, because there was the hunting grounds, and then there was the
There's like
the melee
tasks.
pit.
Oh, the
The me-
melee pit. Yeah, yeah, where you can kind of hand it. Well, hit people with your spear a whole bunch.
Yeah, like I saw that and I groaned inside when I saw it. I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't want to fight 5 guys at each site. And I went and talked to them, and it was, oh, as I unlock my melee tree, then I have a challenge in here, which amounts to do the move you unlocked in the melee
Yeah,
tree.
like here's a live tutorial kind of.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
once you do X amount of tutorials at a melee pit, which I think is like 3,
Mm.
you fight the melee master guy
Yep.
who I've done 2 of them so far and beaten the melee master the first time, both times. So
Mm.
like it's not bad, and they've vastly improved the melee system too. Like
Yeah, it
uh,
feels way better this time.
it's it's not just light. Well, it's they added combos effectively.
Yeah.
They added combos. They added, okay, now your spear is going to gain a charge that you can explode it on someone, or you
Yeah.
can do this 2 to 3 hit combo and then jump back, and a part of them will light up, and then you can shoot an arrow at the part in midair, and then they'll
Yeah.
explode. That one's a good
It's
one.
super cool.
I'm not very good at it, but it's a good one.
Yeah, ditto.
um, anyway, I'm really digging this. They've added so much. Like this is the first game I think felt more like sandbox than open world, I want to say. Like
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
like it was more it felt more confined. It felt more checking things off a list. And this one, it feels more like a world.
Yeah.
And oh my God, I'm not going to spoil what it is, but I did the underwater stuff, and that is some of the most beautiful stuff in the game.
I was really worried about that because they're like, now Aloy can swim and fight underwater, and I was like, please no, I don't
Yeah.
want to do that. But it actually controls and works really well.
I've not actually like I've had the stealth underwater, which I
Yeah, I
thought
haven't
was
had
going
to
to
fight
go.
anything yet.
Yeah, I thought the stealth was going to go real wrong, and it did not.
Yeah.
But kind of there's a location you go in the game to get a certain device to help you do underwater stuff better.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
and that whole set of missions is just like gorgeous.
Mm.
And has a really kind of fascinating story to how it came to be.
Hmm.
Like Horizon's a funny game in that like it is the most absurd sound. Like if no one played Horizon Zero Dawn and they just
Hmm.
went into West and they had the plot line of that game regurgitated to them in the first couple hours of that game.
Right, and they'd be like, "What happened. Like,
Like,
especially for anyone that wants to play the second one, you really should blow through the first one. Like this game tries its best to recap the story of the first one, but there's so much important stuff that's kind of unveiled over the entire course of that first game that it's just, you can set that first game to the easiest difficulty and just kind of knock it out. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Like, I don't think the first one's anywhere near as long as the second one,
No.
especially if you don't, like, there's no need to do everything. It's not like anything transfers.
Right.
Uh, so just get through it. And plus, like, the story in the game, the first game is really, really good.
Yeah.
But if you condense it to 2 hours of NPCs telling you it just sounds like madness. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, like, you have purchased a game where you are going to where humanity is now living in tribes and lost technology and is
Right.
hunting robot animals. So
Right.
like,
And there's an
you know,
explanation for all of it.
yes, that
Yeah.
is actually a pretty decent one, but
It's a good story, yeah.
understand that you're not gonna get like, the game has drama and the game is not particularly dark, but it's
Yeah.
you aren't gonna get Godfather out of this thing.
Right. I think the thing that I'm the most impressed with in the second one is I liked the first one a lot. I did everything in it, including all the DLC. I played it on the hardest difficulty. Like, I knocked out everything in that first game. I loved it. I was really worried about this one being, like when Assassin's Creed went from 2 to like Brotherhood, Revelations, and 3, like it kept getting, they kept stuffing more things into the game. You kind of get the like map vomit that you usually get. Like, you open up the map and there's 500 things now. The last game only had 400. Like, they were focusing on making the game big in the wrong ways. And even early on with Forbidden West, it feels like a bigger game in that there are more things for you to do at your leisure on the map, but there aren't 200 icons. There's all this little stuff you can investigate, there's all this little stuff you can do, there's plenty of content in there, but the world feels bigger, the world feels more interesting, and they're kind of content to just say, like, yeah, enjoy it how you want to.
Yeah.
I think that's really refreshing.
Yeah, I honestly, I think the map I meant to pull up the old map in the first
Yeah.
game just to see what the improvements were, because I don't remember if they had it. But when you complete something, it will change to, I think, the color green and then have completed in parentheses next to it on the
Yeah.
map.
Yep.
Um, they'll mark like blocked path when you encounter some thing that you can't open yet.
Right, or like
whatnot.
tool needed or things like that, where it's like, oh, right, I can't go back there because it's not that I didn't complete it, it's that I can't complete it yet.
Yeah, like icons are mostly just added as you encounter things, or occasionally someone will tell you like they have like a weird rumor system. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe calling it a rumor system is more implying it's more than it is. Like
Right.
you'll get a really, this is like kind of the lowest level animation in the game of,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this guy has a question mark above or an exclamation point above his head. I talk to him. I sit down on this barrel, and then he says, I heard, or don't go down there. There's rebel whatever.
Yeah, there's an
down.
outcast camp or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they'll give you a little dot on your map where the outcast camp is.
Yeah, Aloy like taps the barrel and is like, thanks, Chief, peace.
Yeah.
Just like
It's the lowest level of interaction.
Yeah.
But it's they definitely crammed a lot of stuff into this game, and I think I'm going to do everything. Like there's part of me that's realizing I need to continue on with the rest of my life too. So I may
right.
I may like decide where I'm gonna put in, but because like they have these salvage camps in the game, and I don't particularly find those missions very interesting.
Yeah.
But I suspect I'm gonna get really cool armor at the end of it.
Yeah, that's always the thing. Like, a lot of the armor looks really cool. I always take off the headpiece though, because I don't like how it looks in the game. But yeah, like some of the armor even you get pretty early on is like, yeah, man, That's cool looking armor. I want
Yeah.
more of this.
I like that they have upgrade trees for everything.
Yeah.
Uh, Even if I like that. So okay, you got a weapon you want to upgrade. Oh no, you need a freaking horn from one of those deer-looking machines.
Hmm.
Um, I've been playing this game for 2 weeks straight, and I don't remember the names of anything.
I can never remember the names of the robots.
Yeah,
Every time I read them, and I'm like, oh yeah, like of course that's its name. Like why wouldn't it be?
yeah. And you can literally like track that part, like to where it will just put it like a job quest in your system. There's a
Yep.
little section for jobs, and you
Yep.
can go hunt it.
It's
Um,
really smart.
yeah, uh, I they do a lot of things, and maybe I should talk about the basic gameplay before I stop talking about this game. Like, if you don't know, like you you really don't want to just run up to a machine and start meleeing it or shooting it with an arrow randomly. Like a lot of the game flow in this is you sneak up to a site, you turn on your special sight, you mark where all the targets are, like you pick which one you want to go first, you click the show tracks, like if you're worried about them being too high level and dying, then you probably want to look at tracks. And then
Hmm.
if you're like mining certain parts, like this game is even more informative than the last in that as you're scanning the enemy, you can scroll through the different parts you can detach from them, and it'll
Yeah.
say, "Oh, here's an acid canister. If you hit it with an acid arrow, then it's going to explode. Here's this piece. This piece is typically used in weapon upgrades,
Yeah.
but it'll be destroyed if you don't detach it before you kill the enemy."
Yeah.
Um, and then on top of that, you can tag those parts, which I've been using a lot.
Mm.
Like, I don't know if there's any limit to it. Like, I just show up on sites now. I look at the big enemies. I tag all their detachable resource parts, and I just concentrate on that.
Ah. Right. Right. That makes
Uh,
sense.
I'm trying to play the game in such a way that I don't wind up grinding. I know that if I want everything, I will wind up having to do that.
Yeah.
But that has kind of been my go-to, is just pick up everything I see. And whenever your personal inventory is full, Aloy just sends it to the stash.
Yep.
Um,
Which is really
and
nice.
and then when you are back at your stash, you literally hold, like, there's a button that says replenish things you're missing.
Yeah, it's like replenish all materials or something, and she
Yeah,
just scoops everything she can carry, and you're done. Like, there's so much of that the quality of life upgrades where it's, in the first game, like if her inventory was full, it was just like, whoop, oh well. It's just like in this one, she
yeah,
sends it to the stash. You can pull everything out of the stash. Like every system is so much smarter.
yeah. Like, I don't know that the inventory looks particularly better. It has some sorting stuff that helps, but like with the
Yeah,
quality of life stuff they've added, they've mitigated it to where it's not that big a deal that it doesn't look
yeah,
great.
that's true.
But anyway, I adore this game,
Yeah,
and
I do too.
I feel like if you have a PlayStation 5, you should give it a try at some point.
Hmm.
I don't blame you for if you don't want to spend full price. And I've heard a lot of mixed reactions. One of my friend's daughters said that she would take it back if she could.
Oh wow,
She hates the game so much. I'm like,
jeez.
well, sorry, I guess your daughter can't be right all the time.
Right. Yeah,
But
I feel like the first game, this one is surprisingly divisive. To me, like I really clicked with the first game in a way that I genuinely wasn't expecting. I was like, I'll pick up Horizon. Like everyone seems to really like it, and I really clicked with it. But it is surprisingly, people are really hot or cold on it. I just, it seems like if people don't enjoy it and they don't enjoy playing it, it just seems like literally none of it clicks with them. There are some people out there that maybe are wearing their sexism on their sleeve about, I really hate Aloy, she's grumpy and she's angry the entire time, but it's like, that's cool. Maybe pay attention to the story, but that's okay. Um,
yeah,
but
she
it
very much has a character arc in this. So like her
yeah.
attitude at the beginning of the game is not the same as where I'm at, where she's in the game.
Well, and I feel like at the beginning of the game, it's a lot of like, I need to go to the Forbidden West, and then she got like gets stopped at that border town. It's just like do all these BS side quests for like you don't really have to do them, but like her reaction to it is like, oh my god, I have to do all this busy work for all these useless people. Like, just let me through. Like, I can fight these robots. Like, you don't even know what I can do. Get out of my way. So like, of course, there's gonna be some grumpiness there, but I think it's really interesting that some people are like you and I are like, I'm 100% in. I think it's really great. Highly recommend it. And other people are like, this is the worst open world game I've played. And it's just like, man, like if it doesn't click with you, it seems like it really doesn't click in a way that I think critically is really interesting.
Yeah, it's something's really happening to the open world genre. Like I feel like we have like, I don't know, 4 or 5 versions of
Yeah.
open world games now, and
Mm-hmm.
each fan thinks that they have like the version that is
Yeah.
definitive. Like it's like Breath of the Wild versus Ubisoft versus Bethesda versus, I guess, now Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I think that's kind of exciting though, because I think it's nice to see people be like, oh, I really love this genre of open world, like Breath of the Wild sort of being this incredibly hands-off experience that people really click with, where it's like you don't have you have your main menu, your main mission when you start the game, and then like who cares what you do? I don't care. You can just go crazy, man. Like whatever.
Honestly, like I think it's if you've been listening to me for an amount of time, I was pretty lukewarm on Breath of the Wild, but I'm really happy with the influences that Breath of the Wild had on Forbidden West.
Yeah, agreed.
Because they're definitely there, and it's definitely more than just the glider. But
Yeah.
it's part of it is most things you can climb. It's not
Hmm.
as everything, like we'll say like 80% of things you can climb.
Yeah.
uh,
The
but
highlighting stuff for climbing stuff is really nice too, where it's just if you scan your focus or you go in the accessibility, you can kind of turn it on permanently. But like that's just like, yeah, here's your path. Like if you can't figure
yeah,
it out, like here's the way to keep going up.
and honestly, like if Elden Ring has a good idea, I hope they freaking throw it in 3.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Yeah.
so. It, Granted, I hope 3 is not a Souls game, but
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
in another way, though, like I could see the argument there because your enemy encounters in Horizon are so long. Like
Mm, that's
if I'm
true. Yeah.
fighting a semi-difficult thing, then that's probably a 5 or 10 minute encounter.
Yeah, it's not like you're not sneaking up on a Thundermaw and like poking it in the back
Yeah,
once and you're done.
yeah. I
Or,
man, I did one of those today. That was a 20 or 30 minute ordeal.
mm-hmm.
I died on it once.
Oh wow, nice.
Maybe it was longer than that. I don't know. It was. He has a couple of like one-shot kill moves, and I
Yeah.
was trying to snipe him from anyway. Uh, anyway, I really like it. I hope we have given you, the audience, enough to.
Yeah, make an informed
Yeah,
decision.
yeah.
Yeah.
But so that is all I've been playing.
I started Guardians of the Galaxy the other
Ooh.
day here because my final game here is the one that I'm expectedly 100% into. Um, and I feel like my next step in Horizon was going to take me longer than the time I had. So I was like, all right, let me check out Guardians of the Galaxy. It's made by the Deus Ex team over at Eidos. Um,
I
and
didn't realize that.
yeah, and like everybody seems to really love it. And I bought it. Maybe it was like it wasn't too long after release for like $30 for the PS5. And I was like, all right, let me just. The more time goes on, the more people are like, yeah, it was my game of the year for 2021. It's like, all right, I should check this out at some point. Um, and man, it makes a really good first impression. I probably played an hour or an hour and a half, so I think I'm in the middle of the first mission. Um, it starts off with kind of in Guardians style. It starts off with kind of the modern day 80s stuff of kind of teenage Peter Quill. You don't spend very much time on that at all, maybe 5 minutes most if you want to really poke around his bedroom. Um, but you find yourself in the Milano right after that, and it's kind of nice that they just lets you explore the ship. It's not very big, but it's kind of exciting to go in each individual person's room and kind of poke around and see what's going on and like get Peter's kind of thoughts about them. He says them out loud, so like someone from elsewhere on the ship will yell at you about like, hey, maybe don't have an opinion about this thing in my room. Rocket and Groot are kind of chattering the whole time, telling stories to each other. Also really wild that I can say Rocket and Groot and like most people will understand these Guardians of the Galaxy, like originally C-tier characters, like C-tier popularity characters. And be like, oh yeah, the flying raccoon and like the tree guy. So it's kind of fun doing that, and you go on your first mission, and it at the beginning it's largely like a third-person shooter platformer sort of thing. You have a dodge, you have Peter's two pistols that you're kind of locking onto enemies. You're doing like crit damage. You have like a skill tree for each individual person. So there's some good RPG stuff there. You're earning XP as you're going along. But there's two things that I was kind of surprised about in each mission, and one is of the 4 Guardians you can have kind of with you, you can have them do an individual ability in battle and out of battle. So like out of battle, Groot kind of extends himself across a big chasm. You can kind of climb on some branches to cross a giant area. But in battle, you call on him and he kind of locks down a whole bunch of enemies in one area so they stop swarming you. And the other thing that I was kind of interested in is as you're wandering around, everybody's kind of talking the whole time. It doesn't seem to be too often to be annoying, but it's kind of like they're all friends. They're kind of like shooting the poop the whole time. You're making dialogue decisions as you're wandering around and like platforming and puzzling in the environment. You can decide not to make any comment, but like on the PS5 you hit square to react, and you're going to hit either L1 or R1 for your choice. And they kind of give you the typical like adventure game like Telltale sort of thing where you get a little blurb and then he kind of says his thing, you guys have a conversation, and you kind of keep going on. But some of the conversations seem like they get a little bit more intense, as Rocket and Peter get separated from Groot at one point, and Rocket spends like a 2 or 3 minutes getting into his background of how he was created. And I certainly wasn't expecting more than like a funny quip, and then you're kind of moving on. So far it seems way better than I was expecting, especially after its disastrous first announcement at E3 2020, I think, where Square showed it for what felt like about a half an hour. But so far seems really good, and every time I remember it was made by the Deus Ex team, and I'm like, yeah, I should probably give this game a chance, because those 2 games were really good, so you've earned a lot of goodwill here. But yeah,
I really liked Guardians of the Galaxy. I played through that last year. So I'm excited that you're playing it. It's I don't know that it was the best game last year, but it was certainly like a very, very good game, and it's very entertaining and has a lot of really good writing, and is like, it's not a long game, but it's longer than you think it's going to be, and not like in a bad way, just in
there's a little bit more meat there.
Yeah.
And
I like how they combine, like, they went to the game saying, okay, 90% of our audience is going to know this from the movies, but for that other 10% that actually read the comics, we're going to throw that stuff in there too, and they blend them all together.
And I know that a lot of people, when it was announced, they're like, oh, they look different, they have different voices and stuff, and I dig that stuff. Like, I don't want this to be a Guardians of the Galaxy movie tie-in game. Like, I want like Drax looks significantly different, Gamora looks significantly different. Like I want that stuff out of this. Like I want this to be a different game than starring Chris Pratt and the team. You know, like
Yeah.
nobody really wants that as much as they think they do. So yeah, so far so good. Kind of enjoying that. The last game I've been playing here, not shockingly at all, Destiny 2: The Witch Queen came out late last month. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it because either you care about it and you have probably been playing it, and you're probably in the clan too, or you're already hitting fast forward on this, which I certainly don't blame you for. I think the thing to take away, Destiny had Shadowkeep and Beyond Light were the last two expansions before this. Both of those had some problems. Shadowkeep was the one focused on the moon, was short and felt kind of unfinished from a storyline perspective. Beyond Light I liked, but that also felt kind of short and pretty well done, but not. It didn't feel like it kind of hit the highs of some of the higher points of, you know, Destiny 1 had the Taken King, Destiny 2 had Forsaken. Like, those are kind of the high points of the campaigns. All that being said, Destiny 2: The Witch Queen is hands down the best campaign that Bungie has ever made, and it's not even close. It is one of the biggest problems that Destiny has had. It's always been the thing that's frustrated everybody, even if you're like 100% drinking the Kool-Aid for Destiny, is that you would do like the opening quest for a campaign and you're like, hell yeah, this is great, Destiny's back, let's do this, all right. And they would be like, all right, bless you. It would be like, good job, Guardian, you cleared that mission. Go run 3 lost sectors, go do 4 patrols, and go get your light level up. And it's like, no, I want to go do the cool stuff. Like, you stop putting these walls in front of me doing the cool stuff. They don't do any of that in this game. They have a really smart system where, number one, each mission is long. It's not like a 20-minute thing. The first time you're going to run through this mission, each mission is probably going to take you around an hour, if not a little bit longer. Like, they are totally hands-off on puzzles. They're totally hands-off on kind of encouraging you where to go. It really is, it feels kind of a lot like we were just talking about with Horizon, where it's like, all right, here's your mission, go crazy. This is clearly a puzzle. You're smart enough to figure it out, go crazy. Like, it really gives you, as the player, a lot of credit. But in each mission, at 3 or 4 points, usually when you finish like a big boss battle or mini boss or boss or something, it drops, it opens a chest, and at least 2 items drop out, like 1 piece of armor and 1 weapon, and upgrade materials. To, if you're not going to equip that, you can infuse it into your gear. So as you're going through the mission, you're getting upgrades that will prepare you to take on the very next mission right away. So like it's kind of bringing you slowly up along the entire campaign to be able to finish it all in one go, which is hugely refreshing and really great that you can just kind of sit down and for a couple of hours knock out that entire campaign if you want. Alongside that, they came out with a legendary difficulty for the campaign, which is much more difficult, and it's unlocked as soon as you start the game. So you don't have to like go through normal mode and then you unlock, like if you and your team, or if you just want to do it solo, want to do the hard difficulty, go crazy. Like me and the 2 other Destiny guys, we just cleared it this week, kind of after 2 sittings, and that thing is a much harder challenge. Not impossible, but a much harder challenge in a nice way than kind of the normal campaign. And then there's a whole new patrol area, the throne world, which is really big, and it has in it some of the introduction stuff of like go do a couple patrols, go do a couple lost sectors, but that stuff isn't required for the campaign. That stuff is required for you can do all this stuff, and then we get you just a bunch of cool weapons and armor from this place for doing some kind of easy things. It is genuinely really refreshing. I always say this on TVGP. If you don't like Destiny, this isn't going to be the expansion that's going to bring you back. Like, it's not hugely different. It's not hugely improved. It's not going to be, like a isometric SRPG. It's not going to be something it isn't. But if you played Destiny before, if you liked it, if you haven't been playing for a while, they brought everybody's power level, their light level, up to the minimum to start the campaign, so you can just literally hop in and start the campaign. And if you've liked Destiny before, I would highly recommend this campaign. It's a blast to play through. And I'll touch on it a little bit. In an interesting way, the new season started at the same time as the expansion did, which they usually don't. But the season is kind of the other side of the storyline coin, where you as the Guardian are in the throne world kind of dealing directly with this issue that the storyline is addressing. But in the season, you're helping the rest of your allies and everything. Over the last year, you've gotten a lot of allies on your side that have normally been enemies, quote unquote. But now you're helping them defend the rest of the solar system from the same thing that you're directly attacking. So it's kind of nice to see these two things complement each other like they kind of normally don't. But Witch Queen is great. Destiny 2, I think, is still great. I can't recommend it enough. So far, it's really, really good.
Real quick.
Yeah. Yes, please.
What platform are you playing on?
PS5.
Okay. And do you know how much not that I'm going to do this week, but you kind of sold me on it on TVGP.
Right.
How much do you think it would cost me, who has not played the game in like a year,
$40
upgrade to it? $40?
Yeah, $40 for Witch Queen. If you didn't play, so if you haven't played for a significant amount of time, my recommendation would be pick up Witch Queen and play that. That's $40. I don't remember if that comes with a season or not. If not, the season is only $10. Highly recommend that, because it's basically like, here's a whole butt ton of content for Witch Queen, and over here is a whole butt ton of content too. So like you get a pretty incredible amount of content. There's also like an upgrade path if you didn't play Shadowkeep or Beyond Light. There's like a small upgrade pack that you can buy for that stuff too.
Okay.
And I don't remember how much that costs, but it wasn't super duper expensive.
Okay.
There's also like a 30th anniversary pack with like a dungeon and other stuff. I don't know if I would recommend that unless you're like back to Destiny for good. But I'm not. The benefit of Beyond Light is you can get the Stasis subclass, that ice subclass, by doing that campaign, and Stasis is a lot of fun.
Gotcha.
And Destiny fully supports cross progression and cross save and cross play now. So you can kind of pick it up on PS5 and play it with anybody across all platforms by default, which is pretty nice. But yeah, pick up Witch Queen, dive into that. That's probably the best thing you can hop into now, and you can kind of extend on from there.
I do like logging in and seeing, oh, all my guys are now 1350 light level. So
Yep. Yeah, and I always like that they do that, because it's like, hey, if you haven't played Destiny for a while, that's cool. You're ready to go. Like, you're just ready to hop in all of your weapons and armor and everything. It's just hop right in.
Yeah, in my mind, if I can afford it, I get it, I play it for like a month, and then probably shelve it again for.
Yeah, and I think I always get frustrated with people in the Destiny community. Like, I think that's a good way of playing Destiny if that's how you want to play it. Like, you hop in once a year for the big expansion, you play that until you kind of get sick of it, and you're like, okay, cool, I'll see you next year for the next big expansion, which you'll be ready for by the time they release that one too. So like, I'm very much on the opposite end of like I'm squeezing every little bit of content out of that game for like every week for a year. But I also think it's a lot of fun to just kind of play the cool campaign, and like once you've hit your wall to just be like, yeah, I had fun. I'll see you guys next year. Just keep me in the clan.
I guess I lied. I guess I haven't played since 2019.
Okay, well you got a lot of cool stuff to do now then.
Yeah.
But yeah, Witch Queen is great. Highly recommended if you've been gone from Destiny for a while. There's just a lot of cool stuff to do. That's how I'm playing this month. Let's do our releases and news stories here real quick. Releases for March 2022. Elex 2 comes out for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series consoles, and PC. That came out on the 1st. If you've never heard of the first Elex game, it was kind of this fun European developed open world RPG where it's kind of like mixing some kind of like ancient stuff with some modern stuff, and it wasn't the most polished thing, but I think if you're looking for kind of a cool, fun B game, like a B level RPG, it seemed like a cool thing. And this one also seems pretty neat. The people that really love this game seem to be really enjoying this one. Puzzle Quest 3 came out for PC, iOS, and Android on the 1st. I've downloaded this and I've played it a little bit. It is significantly different from Puzzle Quest 1 and 2 in a way that I'm not sure I dig immediately. You can make diagonal matches now, and instead of it being turn-based, you're trying to do as many matches as you can during the time you have in your turn, which it is interesting. That's all I have to say about it so far, which is why I kind of didn't talk about it in the first part, but it's an interesting first impression that I kind of need to stick with. Babylon's Fall came out PS4, PS5, and PC on the 3rd. This is reviewing very poorly. It seems to be one of those games that I don't think I can. It's a platinum game, and it's a live service game, which seems like a bad pairing. Pretty much everything about it seems like it's a total mess, which is a real bummer. Triangle Strategy just came out for Switch on the 4th. Again, I keep forgetting this came out. This is also reviewing pretty well, but I feel like if you see that game, you know whether you're gonna like it.
Yeah.
There's a pretty significant demo out there now that came out recently that you can carry your progress over into the full game. So if anyone wants to get what seems like a pretty good chunk of the beginning of that game to try it out, you can go download that demo and kind of roll that into the full game. RPG Time: The Legend of Wright comes out for Xbox One, Series consoles, PC, iOS, and Android on the 9th. If you haven't seen this one, it's kind of a charming little game that looks like a kid is drawing it on kind of like his books and his notebook and his desk at school, and kind of making the dungeons and the fights and stuff out of all of the stuff that he has around him. No idea how it's going to play or anything, but it's one of those games where you look at it and you're like, this is a cool style. Like, this is a cool little thing.
Yeah, this is a really good art style. I'm kind of glancing through the trailer right now.
Yeah. It seems like a neat thing. I hope it plays well, because I think that could kind of be a sleeper hit. Speaking of sleeper hits, a game that I am still going to constrain will be a big hit this year for people that are as crazy as we are about weird RPGs. Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin comes out PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series consoles, and PC on the 18th. It's Team Ninja making a Final Fantasy game, which is a third-person action RPG thing that seems to be a prequel to Final Fantasy 1, as in that trailer of I Need to Kill Chaos. He's talking about the final boss of Final Fantasy 1, which is a wild thing. But also, like, Mako reactors have been showing up in screenshots and trailers of this game, so there seems to be some other stuff bleeding into this game. It has a full job system where you can mix and match abilities. It looks really wild. I would love to pick this up when it comes out. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to fit it in my schedule, but this looks like a really crazy thing that I hope turns out really well. Rune Factory 5 comes out on the Switch on the 22nd. I feel like this is one of those few games that you kind of it doesn't need any introduction. It's the next one of these. Seems like there's a ton of upgrades and a ton of new stuff. I think it's coming out to other stuff too, but I couldn't find if that's the same day or if that's a future release or not. So kind of keep an eye out on that. The Ascent comes out on PS4 and PS5 on the 24th. This is the game that came out last year on Xbox and PC on Game Pass. I liked this game a lot. Depending on the price, I might just play through it again on PS5 because I kind of had a cool 15 hours with this game that I enjoyed a lot. But if not, it's on Game Pass. It's really good. I played it on Series X and it was great. It looks so good. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. God, there's a lot of RPGs this month. PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series consoles, and PC on the 25th. There have been some previews of this out lately. And it seems like most people are coming away and saying, hey, if you liked Borderlands 3, it's kind of more of that, for better or for worse. Gearbox has been out there sort of touting a lot of stuff, saying there's a magic spells system, and this is going to be a significantly different game. And based on the previews and stuff, it doesn't seem to be that case in the early couple of hours, but we'll see. We'll see how that does once it goes live for review. Crystar comes out on the Switch on the 29th. Highly recommend watching a trailer for this one. Crystar. Seem to be reviewing pretty well. It's kind of this isometric dungeon crawling anime girl kind of thing that looks like it has some pretty fast action in it. I checked this out on a whim when I saw it in the release channel here, and it looks like it's a cool thing. I'm sort of surprised by it. And last game here, Weird West, comes out PS4, Xbox One, and PC on the 31st. This is from old Arcane developers, Dishonored and Prey, and so on. They left to make their own studio, and they made this kind of weird, spooky, isometric Diablo-style Western horror thing. It looks pretty neat. Previews for this have been really, really positive. So maybe we'll tune in next month, see if we'll talk about it. But that looks like that could be one of those kind of cool indie games that kind of comes out of nowhere. All right, news stories. Got two quick ones this month. Fuga Melodies of Steel 2 was announced alongside Melodies of Steel 3, which is, for me, very exciting. CyberConnect 2 CEO wrote in a Famitsu column he has that Fuga Melodies of Steel 2 will be announced in July 2022. It's going to take place about a year after the in-game events of the first one. I know Fuga hasn't done super well sales-wise, and it sounds like the team is kind of frustrated that it's not doing better. But hopefully this will maybe kind of continue to push it forward, and hopefully more people will check it out. But this is one of those games I was fully expecting never to get another one and always kind of be bummed about it. I hope that's not the future for dungeon encounters. I don't. Musum, did you play that Voice of Cards, The Isle Dragon Roars? I don't think we talked about it on this show much, did we?
I don't. Is that the game where like the environments are made out of cards? But
Yeah,
that's,
the Yoko Taro like kind of card game thing.
yeah. But it was the gameplay isn't actually card based. It just has a card aesthetic kind of thing.
Yeah, it came out late last year, so like 2 weeks after Dungeon Encounters came out. Voice of Cards already has a full sequel out. It came out at the end of last month. Was just like, we're doing another one, and you're like, cool, some
Jeez.
DLC, and they're like, nope, it's a brand new one. It's like, okay, that's giving me a little bit of hope for Dungeon Encounters 2, because as time goes on, more and more people seem to be checking out that game and being like, this game is sick. If you love numbers and you love RPGs, Dungeon Encounters is great. So now that Fuga Melodies of Steel is getting 2 sequels, hopefully that means another sleeper hit of last year in Dungeon Encounters. We'll get another one of those.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. And then BioWare shares a small update about Dragon Age 4 and Mass Effect. Normally we wouldn't talk about this because it's sort of like, oh yeah, things are going great. But they're saying that at some point last year, especially for Dragon Age, kind of the blueprint for the game was completed, and it sounds like the blueprint is really solid and they're just kind of executing at this point. And it sounds like after this statement, and then after some kind of insiders we're talking to some BioWare peeps, sounds like Dragon Age is kind of doing well and on track, which I'm glad they have not shared a release window yet, because I feel like if you share it at this point, it probably won't make it, which I appreciate that they're being a little bit more close to the vest on that. But it's kind of a pleasant surprise to hear them say, like, yep, things are going well. Everything is still hopping along nicely. 2 thumbs up. So usually we don't get stories like this. Usually we get like Dragon Age 4 has been canceled. We stopped working on that like 2 years ago. Yeah. Don't even worry about it. So it's kind of nice to get a short update of just like, yep, we got a solid blueprint and we're cooking away at it. So
I'm glad they are positive. Like I feel like BioWare fell down so far, and I'm hoping. Like the Mass Effect Legendary Edition had to have given them some more steam. Like,
yeah, that was super well received.
Yeah, so hopefully this is. I'm excited to see. Like, I'm bummed that cool thieves idea that I can't remember. It was at the Jason Schreier article or book or something.
I think so. Yeah.
Like that sounded super cool, but I'm open to what they got. I am curious to see what we do about Mr. Wolf, whatever his name is.
and I feel like with both of these games, they kind of can't mess them up. Like, Mass Effect really needs a win after Andromeda kind of flopped. And Dragon Age Inquisition was and still is received so positively that, like, you can't put Dragon Age 4 out and have it kind of be half done or kind of rushed out like Dragon Age 2 was. I love Dragon Age 2, and I will defend that until my dying breath, but like it was rushed.
Yeah. I'll tell you, man, sometimes I think about replaying the Dragon Age games, and like when I think about Inquisition, I'm like, I really don't want to do 90% of this stuff in that game again.
I keep thinking of like, man, I could go back to Inquisition, I could like start a playthrough, I could do all the DLC, apparently that stuff was good, and I was like, I cannot afford to put that level of time into Dragon Age Inquisition again. I will do it if I start that thing back up, and I will enjoy every minute of it, but like I have other things to play.
The DLC is lopsided. Like I don't remember the names, but one of them's good, one of them's terrible. I don't remember how many there are, but I bet if we talked about them, I would remember.
Yeah. I think I started playing the bad one, and I was like, this is not great, and I just kind of dipped out. Yeah. All right, well, that's all of our releases and news stories for this month. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. If you'd like to visit us, you can do so at pickingupthepixels.com. Everywhere to find and follow us is on the right-hand side of the page, including, excuse me, getting choked up about patreon.com/E1M1, where you can support us financially if you choose to do so. If you can't support us financially, totally understand. Times continue to be tight. If you can't support us over there, the biggest way you can help the show out is rating us 5 stars wherever you listen to, and especially telling your friend. For this show and any show you listen to, word of mouth is huge, and it's the best way of supporting any podcast, video series, whatever you're enjoying. That's the best way to help them grow and sustain growth. So we super appreciate it. Musum, where can we find you online?
So you can find me on Twitter at John Musum, and watch me occasionally lose my mind. And you can listen to my music. My band's music is Axis. You go to axis-band.com, or you can go to musum.bandcamp.com for my solo stuff. Axis is more like KMFDM Ministry, and my solo stuff is more mellow electronic stuff.
Yeah. You can find all my shows over at e1m1.com. The ones are numbers. And since we were talking about Destiny over here, if you're playing Destiny and you're crazy about JPEGs like I am, go check out DestinyEmblemCollector.com, where I work way too hard about telling you where to get all the cool emblems in the game. So you can go check all that over there. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I greatly appreciate it. Our venture continues next month. Bye.
Bye.